to the lovely cloud. Okay. Well, thank you very much, all of you, for being here. My name's Laureen Von Clan. I think I know all of you. And I want to thank you for being here for our monthly SAMOCAN, Santa Monica Climate Action Network webinar. This one is a little bit different. And in fact, we're going to be having two this month, another one coming up on the beach dunes adaptation. But this one is a little bit special because we have two of our Climate Job Corps fellows here that will be presenting today, Mario Melgarejo Torres and Nancy Faith Sanchez. We have two other climate fellows who are in school and won't make it, but they will have presentations, as I mentioned, coming up. You all know CASM, but maybe you haven't heard us articulate who we are in this sort of simple way, but we are a local grassroots community, volunteer-driven organization with a small staff. And we went through a strategic planning process recently, and very briefly, we identified 4 goals that we are focused on. And those are to get our community to 100% clean renewable energy, which is households as well as our large energy users.
11.
I hear somebody. I'm going to ask people to mute themselves, please. We're also working on policy and projects that will put in place a future Santa Monica that is climate friendly. Mobility options and housing opportunities are at the top of that list. Meaningful community engagement, including not just events and activities, but also things like jobs that are very important, jobs and careers to the youth that will be getting us through this climate mess that we're in. And finally, building a strong organization to help us face the challenges of climate. I just want to acknowledge that we have a bunch of people who are making all of that happen here, who are on the meeting. We have a variety of our steering committee. We have volunteers. We have advisors, staffers, former and active today, and community members as well. I want to thank you all for being here. So just a little bit about this meeting. I'd ask you to put questions in the chat. We will address those after each speaker speaks. And I'm dying to hear what questions you might have. And we will first have one speaker and then another. So please put your questions in the chat. And after an hour is up, we will open it up for general discussion if we have time. And I'm hoping that we do have time for that. So that being said, let me introduce our speakers today. Oh, and I also want to thank, before we start, the Californians for All Youth Workforce Development Grant that has made it possible for us to hire these wonderful young people. And Josh Lord, representing that program, is here on the call with us today. So thank you very much, Californians for All and the state of California, for making this important opportunity, getting young people to work in careers oriented toward climate. Thank you. So our first speaker is going to be Nancy Sanchez. Let me tell you a little bit about this wonderful young person. Nancy is an anthropologist and has focused her academic career on archaeology, learning about indigenous cultures and the importance of diverse voices in the museum field. While she was highly interested in archaeology, her love for environmental work and community engagement led her to focusing on environmental anthropology. Nancy joined Climate Action Santa Monica as a Climate Action Fellow through the Californians for All Youth Work Development Program. She is helping to run CASM's Climate Corps Youth Program, our high school program during the summer. She conducts outreach for projects such as the West Side Mobility Project, helps to organize these SAMOCAN online educational forums, and also works on our digital outreach, our social media. She has been recently working with Santa Monica's Office of Sustainability and a variety of CASM volunteers on zero waste, aiming to reduce the climate impact of waste in landfills from plastics made of fossil fuels that pollute our ocean. As an environmental anthropologist, she is interested in the connection between humans and the environments in which they inhabit, especially how humans are adapting to the effects of climate change. So Nancy, welcome. Thank you. I hope you have the ability to share your screen, and I leave the presentation up to you.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Welcome everybody to our presentation. I'm very glad you can all make it. Today, I will be presenting my topic, which is focused around the Disposable Foodware Ordinance report in Santa Monica. I've titled it Hero for Zero as an outreach initiative for businesses in the city of Santa Monica to urge them to try to be their own hero for zero waste. Today we'll be going through the backgrounds, the objectives, the methods, some images, some findings and recommendations I've noticed while conducting my research. Again, just a little bit about me. I have a BA in anthropology. I am currently a graduate student, also with my anthropology degree. I am also taking a non-credited courses at SMC just because of my interest in sustainability, because of working with CASM. It's very much encouraged me to try to take other courses and gain more education. At CASM, I am also a Climate Action Fellow through the Californians for All program. So you may be wondering, why is CASM focused on plastics? Well, these are just a few of the reasons why. One, plastics are still in our oceans, especially in Santa Monica because it's a coast environment. Plastics are made out of fossil fuels. It takes a lot of energy to make plastics. Plastic disposals emit carbon into our environment, and there are other alternatives we could be taking to plastics. On the right side, you can see some of the utensils offered by the restaurant chain McDonald's, and they've actually changed from plastic utensils to wooden utensils. So a bit about the background on what the 2019 Disposable Food Serviceware Ordinance is. Disposable Food Serviceware Ordinance focuses on disposable products intended for single or limited number of uses by restaurant and food service industries for serving or transporting prepared, ready-to-consume food or beverages. This ordinance requires that these food establishments distribute food and beverages with marine degradable food serviceware, but there are permitted materials like the ones listed below, for example, paper, fiber, wood, wheat straw, or even edible material. The ordinance does prohibit plastics number 1 through 6, bioplastics number 7, PLA, and aluminum. The Disposable Food Serviceware Ordinance does state that marine degradable straws and utensils may be provided, but only upon request. And the food serviceware that are items that are included are straws, stirrers, utensils like forks, spoons, etc., plates, trays, bowls, containers, lid plugs, cups, and cup lids. However, as of today, there's an exemption for cups and cup lids. Other codes that were incorporated in the study was the mandatory recycling, which goal is to reduce the amount of recyclables, non-organics, and organic solid waste deposited in landfills. We also wanted to make note of the single-use carryout bags. And by carryout bags, we mean any bags that's provided by a retail establishment at the point of sale to a customer for use of transport or carry away purchases, like food. So on the right side, you can see a few of the examples of our orders. We can see the comparison between brown paper bags to plastics. Our objective for this study and what our study focused on is what we'll be targeting next. Our target goals were to see if the operating restaurant chains were in compliance with the 2019 Santa Monica Disposable Food Serviceware Ordinance by studying the food packaging and utensils given to the consumers by the restaurant chains. In order to do this, we had to observe and document if the utensils provided by the restaurant chains complied with the ordinance. In addition to this goal, we kept track of the food establishments that did provide brown paper bags versus plastic bags. And here are just some of the methods that we use in order to study this. Our first step that we did was to document Uber Eats and DoorDash and just see what food establishments were in the city of Santa Monica, just to have a narrow point of which restaurant chains we were going to be focused on. Our second step was to order the food and foodware to see what foodware we would receive. The third step was to document the food deliveries through an Excel sheet and photographs, which you guys will be seeing later on. And here are just some of the images that we've documented through this study. On the top left, you can see Carl's Jr. In the middle, you can see Jack in the Box. On the right, you can see Shake Shack. On the bottom left, you can see Buffalo Wild Wings. In the middle, you can see Chick-fil-A. And in the bottom right, you can see Wendy's. And a lot of these, you can see a lot of plastic foodware being used. Some we did have issues with, like Buffalo Wild Wings, where it would have been in compliance with the ordinance had it not had plastic on top for the cardboard material used for packaging the food, as well as the cup lid. But of course, cups and cup lids are exempt as of today. In other cases, when we were studying and conducting this research, we didn't know what the materials were made out of. We had some materials like these cups and cup lids, of course, they're exempt, but just after pure curiosity, we took a photo and documented them. We had some titled Eco-tainer or Greenware. But based off the ordinance, we have to be able to tell through observation if they complied with the ordinance or not. This also included sauce packets as well. In this study, this is what we found to be the most important in what should be taken a step further or what needs to be studied. Throughout the order, we noticed that a lot of the plastic items that were received were labeled number 1 through 5. And this chart below depicts the assortment of foodware received. Some of the food establishments have been double counted for also having eco material. In some cases, we did not receive the foodware upon request. Now, this chart is just a general chart of all the 20 deliveries. In some cases, we did not have the option to request foodware, but we'll go into that later. On the left, you can see some plastic utensils wrapped again in plastic. So just adding more to the landfill. Shake Shack, they did provide a paper straw. McDonald's had permitted utensils, which were wooden. But Burger King, once again, had plastic straw. In these orders, we did note what bags were received. Out of the 20 orders, we noted that 14 had brown paper bags and 5 were delivered in plastics. On the left, you can see some examples. On the top left right here, we see the Jack in the Box delivered in brown paper bags. On the right, El Pollo Loco dessert delivered in plastic, as well as Panda Express, and Shake Shack in the brown paper bag. Here are just some recommendations and what we noticed from this study. So out of the study, we noticed that there was actually one food establishment that was above and beyond and in compliance with the ordinance. Yoshinoya was the example, and they complied to a high degree, which could be example for other restaurant chains. While we did not see any other restaurant chains include paper lids like Yoshinoya, we think that now we can push further with outreach to these businesses and be like, hey, if Yoshinoya can do this with all their food service ware, then why can't you guys do it? And try to outreach to them and try to encourage even other alternatives to plastics. Now, this is where we had a problem when we were conducting the research. A lot of the apps did not have the option to deliver foodware, but the option was also not clearly available at all times. While it's possible that some of the apps may not be the problem and the restaurant chains themselves might have marine disposable foodware as an option also, customers and restaurants might not also be aware that utensils and straws could also be delivered unless requested. Some future initiatives we're thinking of doing to promote more outreach to these businesses is that food establishments need to document whether or not the food service ware is in compliance, because it's difficult to know based off the product name or information printed on the item itself. Second, outreach for the use of marine degradable lids or preparation for removing all or part of lids and cups exemption needs to be done. 3, early adopters that include marine degradable materials could be incentivized, or we can promote and incentivize reusables over disposables. And lastly, the apps, the restaurants, and consumers need to be aware that utensils will not be provided with all deliveries and that they need to be requested. The apps need to make this easy and clear, that way we are able to go through with the ordinance. And that's all I have for today, but if you have any questions about this report, I'm currently looking into publishing to make it available for everyone. Feel free to email me at casmcommunity2@gmail.com.
Thank you so much, Nancy. We have a question in the chat from Jim about the time period of the study.
Yes, so this study, we started with the Climate Corps just to try to teach them more about the Hero for Zero topic. So we started that in June, and I concluded the study around September, the end of September, and then just conducted with the edits after.
And Catherine has a question about enforcement of the ordinance and if there is a fine for non-compliance.
Yes, I actually looked into that. There are fines, but as of right now, the city of Santa Monica is not enforcing them. Right now, I am in conversation with the Office of Sustainability, and right now they're trying to push for further outreach. I'm just waiting on the materials. So I'm able to go up to those businesses and be like, we need this push to be done. You need to be in compliance with the ordinance.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay. You may have other questions when we, after Mario's presentation. I'd love you to think a little bit about what Nancy presented here. You're getting some kudos in the chat there, Nancy. So I really want to commend Nancy for taking this project on and really helping us to document what is happening. It was actually the city of Santa Monica asked us to look into this a little bit, and we sort of crafted this project. So we have been in discussion with them.
Lorraine, can I ask a question? This is Gina.
Yes.
In the study, you said there were 20 to-go things, but you gave 19, like 14 used paper and 5 didn't. What happened to the final one?
So in some cases, in that case, we actually reordered for one of them, and that was McDonald's. In the beginning of the study, in June, McDonald's actually had plastic utensils, and it wasn't until we did a second order around the end of July, almost until August, that they actually had wooden utensils. So we were glad to see that change, that they're actually taking in consideration the ordinance.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we are looking forward as an organization to engaging the community in helping to do outreach to these restaurants. Of course, city enforcement is needed, but I think there's nothing like a bunch of people in CASM t-shirts eating at Panda Express and then asking the manager what they're doing about all their plastics. Panda was one of the worst offenders in all of this. So anyone who wants to join us, we want to approach them in a friendly but strong spirit of embracing change. So, okay. Mario, we are on to your presentation, and let me here read you a little bit about Mario and his background. So Mario Melgarejo joined CASM in early 2023 as a member of CASM's Climate Fellows through the California Youth Jobs Development Program. Since then, he's worked on a variety of outreach projects in electrification and transportation, been present at community events, and assisted running our summer youth climate corps program. Mario graduated from UC Davis in 2020 with a degree in sustainable environmental design and participated in a study abroad program on housing and urbanism in Barcelona in 2019. Inspired by his educational and personal experiences, Mario now seeks to dedicate his professional career to addressing social and environmental problems in California, particularly in the area of transportation and urban design. Mario's project has been to help CASM achieve one of its areas of focus, which we have been focused on for the last few years, which is how kids get to school. And in particular, we have been looking at how kids get to SAMOHI. So we think there's a tremendous opportunity there to address environmental justice, air quality, public health, and transform the way our city works. So delighted to have Mario present his project. Mario, the floor is yours.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Lorraine, for that introduction. My name is Mario Melgarejo. I think Lorraine addressed this in her introduction of me, so I'm not going to repeat any of this. And Same thing here. I think Lorraine addressed most of this. I'm with CASM under the Youth Job Corps state program, workforce development program funded by the state. And I've been engaged in a number of community engagement projects. I've worked on CASM's website. For the beginning of the year, I spent a lot of time with electrification outreach, promoting green building rebates and incentives, electrification incentives, and induction cooktop conversion. And I assisted with the Climate Corps Youth Program, together with the Climate Corps manager, Amy Butte, my Climate Job Corps partners, Nancy, Jasmine, and Isis. And after the Climate Corps, I've been a little bit more involved in some transportation projects, the West Side Mobility projects, many of which connect through Santa Monica and are seeking to provide better bike connections between the West Side and different parts of Santa Monica. And I've also been involved in a project regarding Santa Monica High School commutes. And that was something that kind of started before me. It started with a letter to the SAMOHI principal created by our former colleague, Amy Butte, and a number of parents. They had a number of concerns regarding commuting, and they requested a number of items relating to commuting at SAMOHI. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that specifically, the SAMOHI commutes, as we've kind of started a little bit on that. And I started to engage with it in August. And so the reason that we're engaging with this project as a climate action organization is because vehicle emissions are a big contributor to total greenhouse gas emissions in Santa Monica. They accounted for 68.5% of all emissions in 2022, based on the city's own greenhouse gas emission inventory report. And a good chunk of those vehicle emissions come from school commutes, which include Santa Monica High School. And so the first step of this project occurred in August, and we spent 4 days at back to school registration, tabling, providing information on alternative ways to get to school. So we provided a detailed bike map, a citywide bike map, and a little bit more focus on connections to SAMOHI. Same thing with the bus network. We handed out maps showing the bus routes that connect directly to campus, as well as carpooling zones. And I would say the overarching goal of these 4 days was to collect information, determine what the baseline was, what the existing conditions were, and just speak to people. Let them know that, figure out people's opinions, get them to think about transportation. And so one of the biggest ways that we collected information was through this little sticker board which was largely inspired by a sticker board used by Parma Ghosh and the Go Samo TMO at a separate event. I don't remember which one it was, but they actually provided us with this idea. It's a great attention grabber. It encourages people to come to our table, talk to us, get information, grab a flyer. And so we had over 500 students participate in the sticker board. And this sticker board helped us determine how students are getting to school, or get a rough idea. It wasn't exactly, the exact question was, how will you get to school on the first day? Which can be different to how students get to school the rest of the year. But we asked it because it at least gives us a more certain answer, because the first day of school was near. And so people had a more exact answer to that question. And so these were the results of said sticker board. As you can see, cars dominate by far as the primary way that students are getting to class. Roughly 62% were traveling by car, 46% were just one student, and 16% were carpool. And at the tabling, we made sure to specify to students what we meant by that. Carpooling just meant more than one student. So that could mean several students, or a parent and two students, which I know is not a perfect way to define carpooling, but we kind of just had to simplify it. And then another piece of data that we collected, we wanted to see like how people wanted to get to school. So after asking people, how are you getting to school? We asked them, how would you prefer to get to school? And we compared that with their answer to how they're getting to school. And so these were the results combined between 10th and 9th graders. And so I have these graphs here that compare their first answer to their second answer. So people who said they're getting to school by bike, this was the breakdown of how they answer to how would they prefer to get to school. And it was same with the rest of these. And there's a pattern that sort of repeats itself here. And it's that roughly 50% of commuters are saying that they're fine with the way they're getting to school, except for bike. Now, bike, 80% of bikers said that they're getting there the way that they prefer. And so similar to what I was saying before, car, 48% of drivers say they'd get there by car. 50% of students that are carpooling say that they prefer to get there by carpooling, and the rest is sort of even. And so, and also I realize there's a lot of graphs. I'm sorry. I hope that the mouse is working. So I'm pointing to this one that just shows how everyone answered to how would you prefer to get to school. And I think one thing we can take away from this piece of information is that students are open to options. This doesn't exactly align with how they're getting to school. I would say there's there's more demand for modes that don't involve a car than the actual existing conditions reflect in their choices. And we also collected some comments. We collected about 45 individual comments. We just encouraged people to express, you know, what they thought about how they got to school. And we found some commonly reported concerns. If anyone's interested in seeing the full, I mean, I wrote these were on note cards written on pencil, but I typed them all out. If anyone's interested, I'll provide the link in the chat. But just a little recap of like what the most commonly reported concerns were. Lack of safe bike lane corridors connecting campus, bus schedules being inconvenient, relating to school start times, infrequent buses, and also safety and reliability of buses. And so the main takeaways that we took from this 4-day event, I'm sorry. Most people drive. I'm sure everyone could have guessed that even without this survey. As I mentioned before, on average, like 50% of people prefer the way they're getting to school. But that also means 50% are open to options. And yeah, cyclists were an outlier. Students and parents would like to see safer bike lanes, more frequent buses that align with school to start times. And again, just to reiterate, while some people will always choose to drive, perhaps structural changes or policy changes would help many make the choice to not use their cars to get to school.
Wonderful.
And so kind of the next steps, this is really like a long-term project, probably spanning a couple months or maybe even years. And so this was sort of the first step, was establishing a baseline, determining existing conditions, common complaints. And the next steps are to just continue and do more of what we did here. So do more surveys, collect more complaints, engage students and parents alike, and really organize a constituency that can be, I don't want to say commit. It's not really like but maybe like express a sort of a dedication to helping us in addressing infrastructural and policy issues that may help change mode shift away from such a heavy reliance on private vehicles to get to school. And so that involves, of course, getting more surveys, receiving input from the community, the school district, and government entities. Perhaps in the future, if we manage to successfully implement some changes, you know, use it as a model for other schools. And partner with people who are sort of doing the same, not the same thing as us, like specifically regarding this project, but who have the similar mission to us, as far as making it easier for students to not have to drive. And so we're actually working right now, or we're in the beginning stages of working with Santa Monica Families for Safe Streets with this project. And so that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening and for attending. And let me know if you have any questions.
Mario, thank you so much for that presentation. I do see some comments in the chat, and maybe we could just run through those. Barbara asked about a meeting with Carrie Upton. We didn't have a meeting with Carrie specifically on this project, but meetings with Carrie are anticipated. So Amy had a comment. Great finding that people love biking. Mario, can you, I think that's a really interesting point. Can you reiterate that point about how the bikers feel about biking?
Yeah, so basically, we ask people, how are you getting to school? And then we ask them, how do you prefer to get to school? And the bikers overwhelmingly said, I'm fine with biking, or I like biking. So it seems those people
They were committed.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who are not biking appeared to be scared of biking, right? That's a bit of an extraction from the data, but there was in the feedback a lot of comment about we wish the bike lanes were safer, and so it's interesting. If you are someone who bikes, you love it, and if you're not someone who bikes, or maybe has only biked occasionally, you want more change. Is that fair to say, Mario?
I can't say with absolute certainty that those comments came from people who weren't biking.
Right. But yeah.
It could have come from bikers who just see it as a problem, but not so much as a problem that they're not going to bike. I just don't know. To me.
Okay, good point. Thank you for clarifying that. So
Could I just make an observation?
yes.
Yeah,
I'm
Mario.
going to stick to the chat. Kent is next.
Well, first I wanted to ask Mario to talk a little more about the interest in biking. You just focused on the concerns that people have and the safety issues, but it seemed to me there's a good deal of interest amongst people who don't bike now and would like to bike. What were those numbers again overall, Mario?
So overall, let me see. Overall, there was in the total responses for the question of how would you prefer to get to school, regardless of what mode they chose, for how they're actually going to get there, 18% of students said they would like to get by bike.
Mm-hmm.
Like to get there by bike. And currently, as far as actual choices, or like the existing conditions, seem to show that 9% of students are biking.
Mm-hmm.
So there is demand for biking, it appears.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like good potential for mode shift there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to say it was really a pleasure working with Mario and Nancy. I was involved in this project that Mario was working on. He did the bulk of the work and came up with some really great ways to engage with the students and to evaluate it and present the information. They're both very committed and diligent and just showed a lot of initiative. So it's really a pleasure working with them. But I'd like to ask both of them, Mario, if you want to go first, what did you get out of the program participating in it that you think might be of benefit to your career goals going forward in terms of the experience and skills that you might have been able to acquire?
So far, I think the biggest value out of this program has definitely been the connections that I've made with people that CASM has worked with, and is like CASM has a great network and partnership with the city and with local climate activists, and it was even a bit overwhelming at times when I would attend meetings or gatherings with full of experts talking about their field and their expertise. But I think that was all really, really valuable as an educational experience, as well as a networking experience, and learning a little more about different careers.
Great. Nancy, if you have anything to say along those lines, I'd love to hear it.
Well, thank you so much for your question, Kent. For me, because I am not a resident of Santa Monica, a lot of my input is from just an outwards kind of anthropologist perspective. So for me, a lot of the work that I'm doing with City of Santa Monica, I'm really hoping that I kind of establish something for it to get done with zero waste. And if I'm able to help them pinpoint specific companies that need to stop contributing to all this waste in the landfills, I'm very engaged in that. I love conducting outreach. I love doing individual projects, and I'm hoping that all the learning I do, the outreaching, the connections, I'm able to increase my own career and possibly work within the city of Los Angeles and be like, this is the experience I have, and I want to make a difference in my own community as well.
Terrific. Thank you both.
Thank you. I want to reiterate what Kent said, and for me, this cross-generational work is pretty much everything. It's the ultimate getting out of our silos. And if it's not too much for me to say, what we've done some reviews and feedback with our climate fellows. And one of the things that Mario, for example, alluded to it is that there's a great benefit in connecting the young people with older people, as I think mentor is too strong a word, but also a very hopeful word to cross this divide. So if any of you, this is all pretty much family on the call here, but if any of you are interested in coffee or lunch or something with our Job Corps, I would really love to set that up. Share your world, learn about theirs, and I'm eager to do that. If any of you are interested, please let me know. It is what they have said to me, one of the benefits for them as well. We had a comment. It's not really a question, but it's a comment from one of our local activists, Barbara File, very much focused on something critically important. Actually, we have been, as part of this project for getting ready for how kids get to school, wanting to address that, we spent some time, Kent, Mario, and I, looking at the routes that kids take to school if they're going by bus, and the routes that Google sends them on, which unfortunately are not always the safe routes. For example, Google will send you sometimes down 4th Street or down Lincoln on a bicycle, and we don't want the kids doing that. And because those are dangerous. places is the Michigan Avenue Greenway from the standpoint of accessing the school for the rest of the Santa Monica community by bike is critical. And right now it is jam-packed with cars. It's a traffic jam. And because we're not all electric yet, spewing emissions into a disadvantaged community or a community that is noted in Cal Envirus Screen as reaching the threshold. Now I can't remember the term, but for, you know, needing change. And so, but Barbara, your comment is that Michigan Avenue is critical. Do you want to say something else about that?
Well, you know, it's a difficult project for the city because there's so many aspects to it. How do you get kids to school if we don't have Michigan for parents to drive on? And that is a serious issue to be resolved. I don't think they should be dropped off on Lincoln Boulevard. So that is really not a good place for any dropping off or any kids. And so in my thinking, if we keep the gate open there on Michigan and 7th, perhaps we should allow only access from the north on Lincoln Boulevard to Michigan and not allow access on Lincoln from the south. Instead, routing parents down Pico to 4th Street, dropping off in the Civic Center, and also on Olympic near the new entrance there on Viking Way. I want to limit the access to the gate on 7th and Michigan by not allowing access from Michigan Avenue, the neighborhood, you know, from the east, and not allowing it from northbound Lincoln. So that's a concept that I want to explore with the city. And I'll copy Mario on that email that I'll be sending to the city soon with that idea.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's something that now that we're having a lot more conversations with people, and that's what our organization has been about. Judy Abdo always reminds us is conversation. And this outreach that we did at the school registration was really a wonderful opportunity for conversation and engaging people in thinking about how they get their kids to school. Josh says those are super cool projects. Thank you, Josh, for making it possible. I don't see any more questions in the chat. We do have the time reserved until 1 o'clock. I want to thank all of you for participating. But I'm now opening it up to just general discussion. Should anyone want to stay on the Zoom for another 6 minutes, then we will wrap up the meeting. So, general, raise your hand and jump in.
This is Gina. I just want to make a comment, having had two kids that now are older but went to SAMO. My older daughter, had a carpool because she had friends, people that she was comfortable with in the area. And then my younger daughter didn't. We didn't have anyone that lived near us that made it convenient. So maybe helping parents to find those connections of people that they wouldn't maybe normally think of, that they can create, groups to carpool with. If it's not the obvious group, oh, my daughter's close friends don't live within 2 or 3 blocks, so I'm not going to carpool. There's options to find, having discussions of other alternative ways. I got to tell you, only having to take my kid to SAMO like once a week was so nice versus 5 days a week for my younger daughter.
Thank you, Gina. Mario, do you have a response to that? And after that, we have a couple more comments in the chat I'd like to surface.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, that wasn't so much of a question, was it, Gina? I'm sorry if I.
No, it wasn't a question. Well, it was more, it was just an idea of
Yeah.
a way to get more carpooling. Like, are you working on solutions? I know you're working on solutions for biking, but an option for carpooling, find out what's blocking people, what's preventing them from doing it, and having the ideas of how to make it easier. It's
Mhm.
just a comment. Yeah. I don't know if you've thought if that's part of your thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's part of our goal is to gather more information and more ideas about what we can do to increase all these other forms of transportation, including carpooling. I mean, if it's not possible for a family to bike, walk, or take transit, we would prefer them to carpool, obviously. So, and at the tabling, we handed out a carpooling information flyer, and that had resources, Facebook groups, Instagram groups, that have existed for a while, where parents have coordinated carpooling. But beyond that, I mean, I see Catherine put in the chat, create a carpool app for students to find possible carpool matches. Well, fortunately, I don't have any coding experience. I can't develop an app, but maybe.
SMC there are actually apps out there. SMC actually has one for students to be able to connect with each other. They have a platform
Mhm.
for students to be able to connect with each other to drive or share rides. In looking at it, however, it seemed like it was very much not used.
Mm.
Now, I don't know why that is. Carpooling is something that we've been all hoping for since the 70s, like recycling, and people just have an aversion. I mean, it's anyway, but we shouldn't give up hope. We shouldn't give up hope. Susan Cope made the comment, what about preferential parking for carpools? But let's talk about the whole idea of preference. Does anyone know if at a local level roads have ever been designated? Like, what if Michigan Avenue was only available if you had 3 or more people in the car? No, Barbara's shaking her head no. Okay. All right. Well, that would probably cut down on a lot of traffic. Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in?
I think only a closure at 11th will get most of the parents off Michigan.
Okey doke. All right. Well, Elias, thank you for being here. We have hit our 1 o'clock mark, and I just want to thank you all. Let me close by saying that we want to continue our participation in this workforce development initiative. I think there's enormous hope and opportunity and possibility for young people working on climate. And we actually would like your help if you know anyone who can support us financially to help us build our cash reserve so we can hire more young people to take advantage of this wonderful state grant program. So thank you all. I will pause the recording now, and where is my recording button? I'm going to stop it, but I'm going to stay on for anyone who would like to. And thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.